Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler, and I am the host and the founder of this podcast and the Order of Man movement. I want to welcome you back and welcome you here. We continue to grow in this global pandemic issue of COVID-19 that we're dealing with, and that's a testament to the power of the conversations we're having, the resources we're making available, and everything that we're doing to reclaim and restore what it means to be a man. Guys, I want to talk with you today about combating this wild and inappropriate and frankly dangerous government overreach that we have been experiencing over the past several weeks. Now, I realize as I talk about this, some people are going to say this is too political, and they enjoy the Order of Man podcast because we don't get political. The government overreaching our rights should not be a partisan issue. It should be something that all Americans adhere to, agree with, understand, and want to work to combat and come up with some solutions to. So if you think this is too political, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to have the conversations. And in fact, I had somebody reach out on, I believe it was Instagram the other day, and say that I shouldn't share anything regarding politics or some of these important issues. And I simply said, what a shame. What a shame if we can't use the powerful platform that we've built over the past 5 years to talk about relevant and important and crucial conversations that impact you as men, your families, your businesses, and the country as a whole. So we're going to talk about it. I'm not going to shy away from having these conversations because some people are uncomfortable. Now, if you agree, great, we'll discuss it. On the other hand, if you disagree, that's fine too. I understand. But I'd love to hear from you. We can continue this discussion online or in the Facebook group or wherever you're doing the social media thing, but we're going to do it respectfully, and we're going to come up with some solutions. Before I get into this, I'm actually going to touch on this here in a little bit, but I did want to mention that our book, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men, has begun to do very well over the past 4 weeks. And granted, a lot of people have more time to be able to read and dedicate towards self-improvement. So the book has been picking up. We've got a lot of traction there. And I sold last week, I believe people purchased, it was just over 300 books in a matter of a few hours. So, and those were signed copies. Now, a bunch of you have reached out and said, can I get a signed copy? I'm not going to be ordering any more anytime soon, but here's what you can do because I want to make it available to you. If you go to Amazon and you purchase a copy of Sovereignty, again, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men on Amazon, whether it's the paperback or the hard copy, and then you email store@orderofman.com. Don't send it on social media. Don't do a Twitter post on it or a Facebook message. You got to send it to store@orderofman.com, and you send us the proof of purchase as well as your physical mailing address. Then I will mail you an insert. Again, you got to purchase that on Amazon. Send the proof of purchase with your mailing address to store@orderofman.com. I will send you a signed insert that you can slap in that book, and now you have a signed copy. All right, go check that out. It's a big support to me, and obviously I believe in the message. Hopefully you understand I believe in the message. We've been sharing it now for 5 years. If I didn't believe in it, kind of wonder what I've been doing over the past 5 years here. So let's get into this, guys. I'm talking again about combating government overreach. Now, it is apparent to me that regardless of what you think about this coronavirus fallout, whether it's all warranted or whether it's misconstrued and taken out of context and blown out of proportion, I think it's pretty evident at this point that there is a huge overreach of government and infringement upon our rights as American citizens. I mean, if you think about this, we have people being fined and arrested for spending time at the beach or camping in the middle of nowhere or on a hike with their family. And these individuals are being tracked down and fined and in some cases arrested for doing that. I mean, we're talking about social distancing. I mean, there's nothing more valuable or probably more healthy to an individual than going outside, enjoying the outdoors, spending time with their family, distancing themselves from other people. Like if you're at the beach or you're in the middle of nowhere, you're not on top of anybody else, you're not threatening anybody else, you're not spreading this virus, you're simply using nature and outdoors the way that it was intended to be utilized and enjoying some time with the people that you love and care about. It's ridiculous. So we've got that. We've got the police being militarized in order to enforce some of these ridiculous and nonsensical codes and standards and directives and orders. That's dangerous in and of itself. And you know, it's hard because I really admire and respect the law enforcement community, but I'm seeing them being used not for the good of society, but against society. And what a shame, because we have these individuals that I admire and respect who are going down this path that is not conducive to the freedoms and liberties that thousands and thousands of people have fought and died for. What else? I mean, there's so much going on. It's scary. It is scary. And there needs to be something that we do about it. The other thing is that you see governors who are actually implying that if you are an individual that can rat somebody out for a minor infraction or infringement against one of these unconstitutional orders, that you will be rewarded for doing so. You have companies, private companies, the foundation of capitalism, private companies being told what they can and cannot sell, from paint to, I even saw one where you can't, I think it was a Walmart that couldn't sell seeds and vegetables. It's like, you're telling us we can't buy seeds to grow our own garden? Like, how ridiculous is some of this stuff? These are the same individuals, these politicians, frankly, are the same individuals who, they were the hall monitor in school. And as soon as they got just a little bit, just an inkling of power, they just abused it and overreached and thought they were just king shit of everything. These are the same individuals who are now running our police forces, in governing bodies, politicians, senators, lawmakers. It's ridiculous, and we need to put a check on these individuals. Otherwise, we're going to lose a lot of the freedoms and liberties that, again, have been fought so hard for over the past 200 plus years now. So the question is, you know, what do we do about it? I mean, how do we address this? What is a practical way to address it? What is a non-violent way? I mean, I don't want this to be violent. I don't want this to turn into a civil war. I don't want there to be loss of life and bloodshed over these rights. You know, frankly, it may at some point come to that. I don't think we're there yet, and I hope we don't get to that point. So what I thought I'd do today is break down 8 strategies, 8 tips, 8 things that we can do as individuals, leading our families, leading ourselves, our communities, our businesses, organizations, and then stepping up in the community, what we can do specifically to combat the horrific government overreach that we've been experiencing over the past 8 weeks. And think about that for a second. It's been 8 weeks. There's not a lot of time for the economy to be completely shut down, for us to lose a lot of our rights, for the government to turn our friends and families and neighbors against each other. Like, the amount of bickering and bitching and moaning and fighting and backstabbing and all of this stuff is absolutely ridiculous. And it took 8 weeks. Imagine if it's over a period of, in a course of 8 years. And I feel that will be the case if we don't make a stand. We don't draw that line in the sand as men and do what we need to do. And frankly, it is on us as men to do it. We have a moral obligation and responsibility as citizens of this country and of moral stature, moral capability to do something about this. Every time there's been a threat or an injustice of this form, an infringement upon rights, it's always been the men who have stepped up to put an end to it. And it's our responsibility to take what I've been sharing over the past 5 years and what you've learned from the great men who have gone before you, to now implement that in order to secure and fight for your rights and your family's rights and the people that you love, care about, and frankly, people you don't know, citizens across this great country. So let's talk about this. Again, these are 8 tips. Number 1, self-reliance. I've been talking about this for a very long time. And in fact, as I mentioned in my book earlier, Sovereignty, The Battle for the Hearts and Minds of Men, that is the premise of the book, self-reliance. You need to learn to be reliant upon yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in all ways. You need to make yourself capable of taking care of yourself. A great example. If you're not able to take care of yourself because you're overweight, you're out of shape, you've got some other medical conditions that you're dealing with, well, you have a very real threat of contracting this virus, more so than somebody who isn't overweight, who's in shape, who doesn't have any of these autoimmune deficiencies or anything like this. And there's plenty that you can do to lose weight, to diet, to eat right, to get plenty of sleep, to not increase unnecessary levels of cortisol release in your body. There's all sorts of things that you can do, and we know what these things are. Healthy individuals have a lower contraction rate and a lower death rate when it comes to COVID-19. This isn't new information. Financially, if you're relying upon the government or relying upon other people or relying upon financial institutions for your well-being, the fact of the matter is you're going to receive the scraps that are left over. This isn't about equalization. This isn't about making sure that everybody gets the right amount. When we talk about that, the global population, or at least the American population, getting an equal amount, what that means is that everybody gets less than they actually need. And what happens is we become dependent on the powers that would be, who would love nothing more than to see us rely upon them for everything that they need or we need. It's like, was it Oliver who says, he goes up with a bowl of soup and says, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" That's you. That's me. That's our children and our grandchildren begging for more food, begging for more provisions if we don't learn to take care of ourselves. So you have to make yourself capable and self-reliant in all ways. Do you have money set aside? Are you paying off debt? Are you getting in shape? Are you developing and learning new skills? Are you taking this moment in time where, frankly, this is an opportunity to take a business and now make it a digital business, to go into business for yourself, to develop a skill or a capability that you can sell and you can offer that's valuable that other people will pay for? What a great opportunity we have to reset and really consider, are we completely self-reliant, or are there things that we're dependent on? Because if we're dependent on other things that are beyond our control, when that little spigot gets turned off, and it'll either get turned down or turned off completely, and we don't know how to deal with this ourselves. This is the adage of the eagle, that's out in the wilderness and gets injured, right? Breaks its wing, and somebody goes out there and rescues it and brings it back and bandages it up and nurses that eagle back to health. Very noble of that individual to do. But you know what? If you keep that eagle in captivity for too long, it will never be reintroduced to society, to the wilderness, because it's not capable of dealing with the hardships and the stressors and the things that come up in life as just the dynamic of being a human being. So don't allow yourself to get into that position. Be sovereign, be responsible, take ownership of your life, and make yourself capable in all ways, every single day. More capable, more capable, more capable. Number 2, educate yourselves. All right, we've been entertained long enough, and we've been distracted by Netflix shows and all these other little distractions and drugs and alcohol and pornography. And these are all things that are designed to numb you and also designed to get you addicted to being entertained. You look at kids, even my own kids. It's like if they're bored for 5 minutes, they're bouncing off the walls and they're being destructive and they're bothering their siblings and they're bothering us in a lot of ways and being annoying. I mean, because they're so used to being entertained, and so are you. So instead of worrying about so much entertainment, why don't you worry more about education, specifically how this government is set up, specifically politics and what politicians are doing and how our structure is organized, and also history. These types of things have happened in the past. Freedoms have been stripped away in the not so distant past. We need to remember what these lessons are. We need to understand these lessons. We need to look at them objectively and analyze them and ask ourselves, is this the path that we're traveling? Are we going down the same route? And I believe we are, slowly and systematically, but certainly methodically. And most of us are so distracted. We're so sedated with these other entertainment outlets that we won't get into the battle, and we won't educate ourselves, and we won't gain knowledge and understanding about what is actually happening. And then in 5 years or 10 years, I fear that we'll turn around and wonder, well, what happened? And these are the same individuals who say, I was blindsided. Yeah, you were blindsided because you were distracted. Whether that was intentionally or unintentionally, you were distracted. You weren't engaged. You weren't learning. You weren't growing. You weren't expanding. You weren't gaining new information. You weren't looking at historical evidence of what happens when our rights are infringed upon. So educate yourself. Listen to podcasts. Read books. Read the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. Understand American history. Understand French and German history and things that have gone wrong in the past so that we can keep ourselves from falling into the same traps that people did before. It is your obligation and responsibility to ensure that you do so. Number 3, get elected. All right, get into politics. whether that's at the community level or the state or federal level. Like, we need to put ourselves in positions of power within these law enforcement agencies, within our governing bodies, within our school districts. The more authority and power that we have as sovereign men, as individuals who are strong and bold and capable and moral, the more that we can oust these rats and these traitors within our midst. And there are plenty of them. I also believe there's a lot of good individuals in the law enforcement communities and in politics as well, that there are good individuals. But it seems to me that they're being overrun and overlooked by the thugs and the criminals who would love nothing more than to have all the power, to consolidate that power and make us their slaves, their robots, their cogs in their wheels. All right, this is a very dangerous precedent that's being set, and we overturn this by stepping into these political offices and positions of leadership and authority. Number 4, assemble peacefully. We have the right as American citizens to assemble peacefully, to organize rallies and protest, to get large groups of individuals together to make our collective voice heard and known and understood and maybe even feared a little bit. That element of fear by the powers would be is a good thing. They need to be on their heels. They need to be afraid. They need to understand that the power is not with them, but the power is with the people. And if we can consolidate that power amongst ourselves, and we can organize, and we can rally, and we can protest, and we can get together by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions and millions of people, then these individuals lose their power. They lose their authority. They lose what it is they want, which is the absolute power and say over everything, the way everything is dictated and how we live our lives. We need to rally together. We need to organize. We need to assemble. We need to fight against vocally and peacefully against the things that are happening right now. Number 5, we need to hold our politicians and media accountable for spreading false information and using deceitful strategies. Again, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where so many people just want to be entertained and they just want to have fun and they just want things to be joyful and entertaining, and then sedate themselves from the reality of the life in which they live, mostly because so many people are miserable. They're miserable with their work, they're miserable with their jobs, they're miserable from a health perspective, and so they've got to distract themselves from the misery that they've created for themselves. This is why all of these things are so important. But we have to hold the media and these politicians accountable by replacing them, by calling them out, by putting them on blast, by organizing against them, by not allowing them to get away with the nonsense that they've shared and perpetuated over the past 8 weeks. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not talking about on one side of the aisle or the other. I'm just talking about deceitful strategies, lies, bold-faced lies to deceive and manipulate the American public. It's disgusting. And we need to ensure that if somebody, here's another example. There was several senators who have been engaging in insider trading. This was about a month or so ago. I haven't heard anything about it for the past 4 weeks. Why? Because we've been distracted. These senators and lawmakers have been engaging in insider trading at our expense. They've saved millions, they've made millions because they're using information that we, the public, are not privy to make their own personal gains. There should be a public call from every member or every citizen of this country for those senators to step down. And we need to hold them accountable and responsible and say that this is not acceptable anymore. This is not acceptable behavior. We will not allow you to continue to run the country. We will not allow you to dictate the laws of this land and how this is going to work and how America as a country and a society is going to be run. It's not going to be run by you. You have proven to us that you are out of integrity and that you are incapable of leading with any sense of morality. Now, I realize that people make mistakes, and some mistakes are understandable, and some mistakes can be overcome, and some mistakes cannot, and some aren't mistakes at all. Some are blatant lies and deceit to gain while millions and millions of Americans suffer, and they have been suffering over the past 8 weeks, while there's those who sit on their high horse and don't suffer at all. Those people need to be ousted. Number 6, purchase American goods and services. It's clear to me that we become so dependent globally on this global infrastructure that if something goes wrong or we have an enemy that would like to see the demise and the destruction of this American life, that they will do anything, that they will say anything in order to ensure that that happens, even at the risk of their own population. It's not okay at this point to continue to support organizations that support terrorism, companies and countries that are at direct odds with the values and the beliefs that we have as American citizens. We have to support American goods, products, and services. And not only does it create a new sense of independence from what may be going on in countries that are at direct odds with the way that we choose to live our life, it also reignites the economy. We need to seriously consider reopening this economy. Because I think at this point, the attempted cure or solution to the COVID-19 issues could actually be worse than the fallout and the ramifications of COVID-19 itself. We need to reignite the economy. Otherwise, we will see catastrophic loss. We will see increasing death rates, suicide, depression, anxiety, and it's something that's so crippling that we could potentially never recover from. Now, I'm not saying be stupid. I'm not saying open the entire economy. I'm not even saying open the economy right now. But we need to have some serious discussions about how we're going to reignite this country and how we're going to put people back to work, hundreds of millions of people back to work so that they can provide for their families, for their neighbors, for their loved ones, for themselves, and live the American dream of liberty, independence, and the right to pursue what it is they're interested in pursuing. We need to purchase these American goods and services. So ask yourself, the companies that you're working with, the products that you're buying, what does their supply chain look like? Where are their products made? Do they have factories and warehouses here in the States? Do they employ American citizens, or has it all been outsourced? Now, I realize that at this point, maybe it's going to be more expensive, but you know what? That's something that we're going to seriously have to consider because there's a cost. There's a cost to cheaper goods and services, and the cost is potentially giving away some of our freedom and our independence and, of course, our sovereignty, like I've been talking about earlier. Because now you can see we're at the mercy of China in this case, and tens of thousands of American citizens have died because of some of these issues. This is a big deal. Number 7, do not be entertained or even accept the breads and circuses. You are being distracted. You are being manipulated. So when you get a $1,200 check in the mail, although I realize, or into your bank account, which is also scary if you think about, if that check is directly deposited into your bank account, that should be a scary thing. Because if it's deposited there, it could be taken out of there as well. Be aware of that. Not enough people are talking about that, by the way. But if $1,200 is going to help you put groceries in the fridge, food in your kid's belly, a roof over your family's head, then I'm glad that will help. But understand, that isn't a fix. That isn't a solution. Will it help? Sure, I think it'll help a lot of people. But getting your own money back is not a solution to the issues that we're dealing with. And if we start to rely so heavily upon the government to give us our own money back, or even somebody else's money, because I'm not going to get that $1,200, so somebody else is getting my money, the money that I worked hard to earn, and the money that I created, the value that I gave, that's been taken by the government, and now it's going to be divvied up to somebody else. That's dangerous. That's scary. That's a problem. That's an issue that needs to be addressed. And we're being entertained. We're being thrown bread and circuses. And all the while, these little things are happening in the background. And most of us aren't even aware because we're so entertained with the media and Trump and how this is playing out. And none of it is relevant. It's all just, it's a show. It's a show to keep us from seeing what's going on behind the curtain. And the more that we engage in it, the more that we are docile and entertained by it, the more that can happen behind the curtain while we're not looking, while we're not paying attention. And if you're distracted by money or entertainment or the media and all these other little games they're playing, then you won't see what's really going on behind the curtain. Do not allow yourself to be bought and paid for by the bread and circuses or entertained and dociled by those bread and circuses. And the last point I wanted to share with you guys today is being a man of integrity, being a man of your word, having conviction and values, things that you will stand by, things that you will fight for, things that you stand for, things you will stand against. When you say you'll do something, no matter how trivial, you follow through and you do it. You implement all these other 7 steps that I shared today. When you do that, you will create influence with other people. Other people will see that you are a man of value, that you are a leader, that you do have conviction, that you can lead in the right direction, and they will follow you. Times like this require leaders, and you can be the leader. You should be the leader. You should have a desire to lead in some capacity. There's so many wonderful opportunities to lead your family, lead community members, lead your colleagues and your coworkers in business. But it starts with being a man of your word. That's the foundation. It starts with integrity. Because if you're out of integrity, if you say one thing and do another, then people aren't going to be led by you. They may comply because they're obligated to, right? Like an employee may do what you tell them to do because they don't want to lose their job. But you don't want that. You want true influence. You want buy-in. You want people to voluntarily follow you. That's what leadership is getting people to a place that they could not have imagined going on their own. And you leading the path, you trailblazing that for them, you showing them what's possible. And they'll see that when you create it for yourself. It all starts with self-leadership. And self-leadership is about integrity. It's about doing the things that you say you will do. It's about bridging the gap between what you know and what you think about yourself and how that actually manifests by the way that you show up, by the actions that you take, by the things that you do. It's critical that we live as men of integrity. So those are my 8 steps, guys. This is phase 1, by the way. All right. I hope that phase 1 works. I hope that we get to begin to regain some control, that we put some of these lawmakers and politicians in check, that we begin to, at a minimum, consider how we're going to open this economy back up and reignite, that we establish ourselves as a country as a dominant power once again, that people not fear but respect who we are as a country, who we are as people individually. It all starts with you. It starts with these 7 steps. Hopefully we don't need to move to phase 2 or 3 or 4. Hopefully we can put an end to it right now. But the longer we wait, the harder it becomes. If we bury our heads in the sand, we allow ourselves to be entertained and distracted, this will become increasingly more difficult, and we will see these problems increase exponentially. Let me recap for you, and then we'll call it a day. Number 1, become self-reliant and capable in all ways, financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Number 2, get educated. Stop worrying about being entertained and get educated, specifically on American history, global history, and politics. Very important that we do it. Number 3, get yourself elected or those individuals you believe in, men like you, elected in positions of authority and power. Number 4, assemble peacefully. Exercise that right to congregate, to show up in mass so that your voice will be heard. Number 5, hold our media and our politicians accountable for spreading misinformation and using deceitful strategies to manipulate us. Number 6, purchase American goods, products, and services. Let's gain some of that independence. Number 7, do not be distracted and entertained and even bought and paid for by the bread and circuses. Look, everything comes with strings attached. At $1,200, there's strings attached. Any other handout that you receive, there's strings attached. You may not see them. You may choose not to acknowledge them, but they're there. So you better beware that if you're going to accept the bread and the circuses, that there's strings attached, and you may figure out what those are down the road and not like what those strings are. Number 8, integrity. Be a man of your word. Be a man of conviction. Lead and influence and inspire other people to believe in you so that they will follow you and that you can act on the morals that you have. You can carry out what you believe to be important. I think most of us do. Again, I don't think this is a partisan issue. I think for the most part, the overwhelming majority of Americans want freedom and liberty and independence. They want to be left alone. They want to have some good experiences. They want some romance in their life. They want to raise kids. They want to start businesses. They want to add value. They want to have experiences and learn new things. These are universal values that I think most Americans have. And those are being systematically and methodically stripped away from us by using this fallout from coronavirus as a perfect cloak to exercise some of the things that they've always wanted to exercise. And now is the perfect time to do it. While we're distracted and afraid and fearful, open your eyes. All right, open your eyes to what's going on. I'm not saying that coronavirus is a hoax, but I'm saying this is blown out of proportion. And this moment in time is being used as an opportunity to manipulate. And I think we'll find out over the coming years, the coming decades, what this was really about. And we'll either be in a better position because the alarms were sounded and we heard and we stepped up, or we'll find ourselves, and our children and our grandchildren will find themselves in a worse position because we refused to, we failed to, or we were incapable of dealing with the issues that we saw. All right, guys, that's it. Please also share this. Obviously, this is an important one today. Share this with anybody who needs. Share it with everybody, not people that just need to hear it. Share it with everybody. Everybody needs to hear this message, and it's critical. It's crucial. We're at a very crucial point. We need to do something about combating this government overreach in this time, and I'm counting on you to help me to stand in this battle with me. And it is a battle, and it will be a battle. Please stand with me. Share these strategies. Employ these strategies in your own life, and I think we'll be better for it. All right, guys, we're going to wrap things up. I'll be back next week for another interview and our Ask Me Anything and a Friday Field Notes. We've got them all. So subscribe, leave a rating, review, share this with people. We all need to hear it. We need to embrace it, and we need to apply it in our lives. All right, guys, we'll catch you next week. Until then, go out there, take action, and be the man you are meant to be.